If you're starting a photography business and you're making these rookie mistakes, you've got to stop. You're setting yourself up for burnout and failure before you even leave the starting line. And a lot of beginner photographers feel like they can't even bridge that gap into professional photographer. And it's not because they're bad at taking photos, but it's because of some really simple rookie mistakes that hold them back. And it often leads to quitting too early in the game. I don't want that for you guys, so let's grab a coffee and make sure that you don't fall into these 3 rookie pitfalls. Welcome along, guys, and if YouTube hasn't introduced us, my name's Tracy from Red in the Wolf Photography, and welcome along to my little studio today. And if you haven't already, grab yourself a coffee, because today we're going to be delving into 3 rookie pitfalls that might be making you feel exhausted, undervalued, confused, afraid to mess up with clients, messy and disorganized, and ultimately unprofessional. Let's not wake the imposter syndrome monster up, shall we? Now, I'll go easier on you on the first 2. These simple systems to put in place that will instantly bring you relief and breathing space and make you look and feel more professional. And these are no-brainers, just set them up and do them. And they're both free at the bottom tier, which for those of us starting out in photography is an excellent place to start. But the last one, that tends to put some people's heckles up. But I want you to bear with me, and before you go, yeah, I know all that, I really need you to look at this and change from like mentally, yes, I know this, to I believe it and I understand it at a DNA level. Number 1 is not having client management systems in place. If you have that feeling like you're juggling so many balls at the moment and half of them are dropping, like forgetting to get contracts signed or wondering when the invoice is due or wondering where you were up to with that specific customer that you spoke to like 6 months ago, I want you to put a really simple and effective system in place. Because keeping the post-it note business in business is not the way to run your business. And it's totally not sustainable. Trust me, I know. And I talked about this recently in a video that I did about finally getting myself organized in ClickUp for these very exact reasons. And in it, I go into the nitty-gritty of how to actually set it up for newbies, and I hope that I made sense in it. And there's even a free template, so make sure you check that video out as well. Now, I want to give you a really quick story time to bring this home. A few years ago, I was standing in this exact studio space holding my camera in hand, waiting for one of my first clients to come around. My head was a bit fuzzy because I was a little bit nervous, and I was somehow simultaneously coming into this with a she'll be right attitude, as well as they're gonna see straight through me that I'm like a fraud, kind of imposter syndrome mentality. And I'm legit not sure how I even managed to have both of those in my brain at the time. Anyway, so the client arrives, and I kid you not, I spent the first 20 minutes hunting for an SD card. I'm not even kidding. I went through all my drawers, I checked every inch of my desk, I overturned the buckets that I had like stuff stored in. I was apologizing profusely, I was trying to make light of it, all the while like the pressure building up like a pressure cooker and me trying to keep a smile on my face and trying to be positive. And I did, thankfully, in the end, manage to locate an SD card. But I was sitting there thinking, I never want to go through this ever again. It was terrifying. After this incident, I got myself a card wallet for like under $10 because I never wanted to be without my SD cards ever again. But it really highlighted how sort of slap bang I'd been about everything up until that point. So I started making lists and organizing my drawers and trying to never be in that situation again. But I realized that moving into making a real business, I needed to take it up again, just one more level. So I put on my administrator hat, jumped into ClickUp, and made all the lists all in one place, all in one template that I could cut and paste for each client so that I would never miss these things again. And the beauty of doing this is that every time you learn something new, you can just update that one template and then it's ready for all future clients. And you don't need to go to bed worrying, what did I miss? Wasn't I meaning to do something? What did I forget today? Because you took the time to make that list and nail it in once and for all. And I can say that having an organized drawer system also helped a lot. And I'll link the full ClickUp video below if you want to go through it with me and download that free template. Never forget a contract or a payment again. Number 2 is not finishing the job properly. And I've got 2 points here. Number 1, so you've done the shoot and you're feeling nervous about sending the photos through. I mean, what if the client doesn't like it? You've done your best, but pushing that send button on an email with a link to the Dropbox that you've put all the client's files in, it just kind of feels anticlimactic. So let's fix that. you need a professional gallery delivery system. I personally use Pixieset and I absolutely love it. And it's as easy to use as Dropbox or Google Drive, but way prettier. And not only will your clients love the experience of receiving their photos in a beautifully presented gallery, but so will you. Pressing that send button becomes so much easier when you're actually proud of your work. And as an added bonus, which is something that they should really advertise more, I think, a really good added bonus here is the fact that you can actually see your work displayed better, and it allows you to learn more about your work and see it as a cohesive whole and learn from it every single time that you do an upload, which is actually one of my favorite features about using Pixieset. And seeing the work, whether it's you or the client, helps you see and feel the overall vibe of the entire process, rather than just individual images like in Lightroom, or if you open a file or you're just seeing these tiny little thumbnails. It just gets presented in such a beautiful way that it becomes an experience rather than just here. So I think it's a win-win all round, and you can get that first tier for absolutely free. And number 2 is that you should always send a follow-up email for a testimonial. Unless of course the client's already told you that they don't like you or you don't want to work together again, in which case do the photos, send them and forget them. But generally speaking, that's not going to be the case. And it could be as simple as just including an extra line when you send off the gallery. Like, thanks again so much for including me in your special day. If you loved your photos and you liked working with me, if you could reply to this email and just send in a short testimonial. It doesn't have to be long, just a couple of sentences, and it just helps other potential clients understand what it's like to work with me. Obviously, you'd tailor it to whatever kind of business that you're in, if you're doing wedding photography versus branding photography versus portraiture, etc. But you get the picture. But it just closes out the process. It just finishes the loop, and it catches them at a time where they're excited about the photography that you've just sent, so they're more likely to give you a glowing review. And just as a quick last word on this, that may not actually be the end of your process together. For example, you might be helping them create a wedding album together, or helping delivering prints, or you might be working with them. If they're a company that you've done a branding shoot with, maybe you're doing some design work on top of that. Basically what you would do is at the end of that process, that's where you would ask for that testimonial, but same kind of thing. Basically, you just still want to catch them while they're excited. And I've left the elephant in the room till the last one. Number 3, you're not charging enough. And yes, that is the elephant in the room, but you are not an elephant, so you should not be paid peanuts. And before you click away, just hang on for a tick, because this concept has to change from that yeah, mum, I know, kind of teenage thing, into you actually believing it at your very DNA level. That your work is not only worth being paid for, it's worth being paid appropriately for. And I'm guilty of saying like being paid what you're worth, but I think the better word here is being paid appropriately. Appropriately as in you are a business and they are a client. And that number is going to be uncomfortable for a lot of new photographers. It certainly was for me, and it's still a bit of a stretch for me. I actually did 2 videos around this recently about charging what you're worth and what you need to be paid as a photographer. And they're 2 of my top videos for views, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is actually a really big pain point for a lot of people. And the fastest path to burnout and ultimately shutting your business down before you even really get started is working your butt off and the business not being sustainable. And worse, then you feel guilty for failing at a business that you've spent years trying to build that's taken away from your kids or your family or your spouse. So I think this is a topic that really needs to be discussed in detail. I go way deeper in the videos, but there's 2 main points that I think are the crux of your business that every new photographer should understand to really get this into like a DNA level understanding. The first one is that photography is a luxury item, not a commodity item. Luxury doesn't compete on price, they compete on the experience that they're going to have. The experience of driving and acquiring a Porsche can't be replicated by Toyota. Toyota is a product that you buy. Porsche is an experience you acquire. And yes, I know it sounds really douchey, but you need to understand this when you're setting up your business, because you're not a not-for-profit charity and you're not running a product-based business that's going to rely on like mass sales to be able to make you that profit. And for a lot of photographers, they're framing their prices. Well, the economy's tough right now and I don't want to put more pressure on people. And yeah, I totally understand that, but I also have a normal job to keep things ticking along here, so I fully understand what it's like to live on a budget. But people are still buying Porsches. Think about it this way, everyone has a camera on their phone these days, right? You don't need a professional photographer to capture photos on your wedding day, or photos of your kids, or photos of your business. Like, it's not a need. If you're getting married, you need like you, your spouse, a couple of witnesses, marriage license, and a priest or a celebrant. You don't need photography or like 50 of your closest friends or a really expensive restaurant, some fancy expensive venue. All of those things are nice to have, but they're not necessities. But here's the thing, here's what makes it luxury. People want it. They want gorgeous photos of their kids to put up on their walls and to put up on social media. They want a taste of that luxury. They want to feel like a princess on their wedding day, marrying their prince, and they want that experience of having basically one of the most important days of their life captured professionally. When people are planning their weddings, or they want to get brand photography done, or they want to take photos of their children, they have the option to do it professionally or do it themselves. And it's not actually up to you to decide that photography is too expensive. It's up to you to be a professional and to charge what needs to be charged for you to have a sustainable business, for you to still be in business, for people to still be able to hire you. And this might sound a little bit harsh, and it's not trying to be, but if you're trying to put food on the table for your children, could you go back to any of those people and go, oh, I need an extra $5 this week to put food on my kid's table? No. Because they're clients, not friends. And I don't mean that, again, I don't mean that in a harsh way, but you're running a business. You're not running a charity. What I'm trying to say here is that there's a lot of us that really want to help everyone, but it's back to the old adage of put your own mask on first, then help other people. And speaking of charging like a business, that leads into point number 2 here. Photography is an expensive business. If you charged minimum wage for 40 hours, so that's between like the administration, going and doing the wedding day, and then doing all the editing. Here in New Zealand, that's just over $700. Then consider fuel to and from the venue. Then anything you may need to hire for the event, additional lenses or additional cameras, etc. Then babysitting services. Then wear and tear on your vehicle, saving up for new equipment, website fees, insurance, taxes. So if I'm charging only $700 after taxes and all the really basic business expenses, I'm going to be lucky if I come out with 50% of that. And just as a reference point here, in New Zealand it's about $700 a week to rent a 3-bedroom family home. Add in power, phone, food, petrol, the essentials, like the real essentials, and you're looking at around $1,200 a week just as a basic survival. So going on that math, I need to do 3 weddings a week at least, every single week, just to cover the basics. And at about 40 hours per wedding, if I'm doing 3 a week, that's like 120 hours per week, 52 weeks a year. And that's not taking into account sick days or emergency days or anything like that. Like, there is a reason why professional photographers charge $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 per wedding. And it's because they're looking to make a long-term sustainable business out of it, not just a side hustle. So if you want to get into full-time professional photography, you have to get your money mindset right first. You're a luxury item, not a charity, and you have bills to pay and overheads to pay and business stuff to pay and wages to pay. And just to round that out, wedding season is traditionally like 6 months long. Most people get married predominantly in the summer months. So let's say that you filled half a year and you managed to get 1 wedding a week. So let's just use 25 weddings as a nice round number. So here in New Zealand, just to cover the basics of life and to include some business expenses, let's say I need $2,000 a week. So that's basically $100,000 a year. And with only 25 weddings, that makes each wedding $4,000. And that's if you want to make it like, this is my full-time, can support the entire family on this kind of wage. And look, I'm not trying to scare you off with this. What I'm trying to say is that this is your roadmap. You need to know what you're working towards to make a sustainable business. And that's what I want for you guys. And with around 18,000 weddings in New Zealand per year, 25 of those at $4,000 a pop isn't actually that much of a stretch. And there's no judgment if you want to do this as a side hustle or as a hobby. What I'm saying is that if you are looking to make a long-term sustainable business out of this, you have to be really realistic about the numbers that you're looking at. And you can do it at whatever pace that you want to, whatever works with your lifestyle. Some of this stuff has taken me years to implement between kids and homeschooling and health and work and everything else. This is just meant to be a roadmap of looking at places that you could be leveling up. And if you're interested, if you really want to see a really good breakdown of all of the things that you should be including when you're thinking about how to charge for your services, whether you're a complete newbie or you're wanting to up level, you can check out this video up here, and I'll see you guys in the next video.